Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. This is Comics News Today for the 13th of September. Damn, this year's almost over. We're going to be coming into 2022, which will be much better. hmm Yeah, maybe not. Uh,
Allegedly, yeah.
allegedly. But nevertheless, glad to have you guys here. We are going to be talking about some comics today. Today's show will be a little bit shorter than normal. I am on a pretty tight schedule today, but we should be able to get a good hour out of it, I think. But anyway, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit that like button and share it out. And I hope you guys do the same. It definitely helps us out because what we want is people in here to be with us and your comments and chat and interacting with us. That's kind of our goal. Hopefully today we won't have any of the nonsense we had yesterday. That would be nice. But nevertheless, of course, I am joined by the mighty Thundero. How are you today, sir?
I'm swell. Had a nice long walk with the wife. Uh, swell. I have no complaints today. I'm still having a little bit of that stomach issue I was telling you about yesterday, but that
Yeah,
comes and goes. Ever since I've got my diet in much better condition, I don't typically have that problem.
which
And
is
this is the
good.
first time in, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months that I've had this problem. So it'll be gone probably by tomorrow. But other than that, no complaints.
Well, you're changing your diet. You have to expect some things will change your along with it, so it's okay. But yeah, no, that's good to hear. I have, yeah, I haven't done anything much. Of course, I went to work, which is I do a lot of that. I go to work a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife and I sat and we watched a movie last night, though, together,
Uh-oh.
because usually, I get home about 9 o'clock, but somewhere between 9 and 10, depending on the day. And I try to spend a couple hours with the wife before she crashes, and then I'll usually do burn the midnight oil a little bit. But last night we did. We watched a movie, and it's from one of those actors I really enjoy, and I don't think he's gotten the a fair shake from Hollywood, but Gerard Butler, the Scottish guy.
Yep.
Yeah, I like him. I've always enjoyed his movies, and we watched his new movie, Hunter Killer, and it wasn't
I
bad at
was
all.
I was talking to some of the guys the other night, and we the new Spider-Man game that's coming out for PS5 looks like they're going to do some version of the Craven the Hunter right into the Venom storyline,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's good. That's one of Spider-Man's best storylines,
and the
and
Spider Verse. Yeah,
yes, and I think well, I don't think I know we were talking about if because I've said this multiple times. I want a movie series of that whole storyline. It's so good; it would translate beautifully.
it would.
Craven's a great character. He'd
Yeah,
be a fantastic villain. You could modify him a little bit and make him like kind of like a Steve Irwin that went wrong, and now he like does like on like on shady websites he'll upload videos of him hunting instead of what he used to do, which was for research purposes. That could be an interesting take on it, right?
yeah.
But the reason why I bring all that up is because the one person we all agreed on that would be a perfect Craven is Gerard Butler. He
Oh
would
yeah,
be fantastic at it.
he would be because he's a really solid actor, and
Yeah,
he keeps himself in pretty good shape. But yeah, no, I wouldn't mind seeing that. But I would suggest the Hunter Killer. I think it's a good, solid movie. It's not some AAA Hollywood thing, but it was fine. I didn't really have any complaints whatsoever. You know what it made me feel like? You remember those old war movies from the 40s, 50s, early
yeah.
60s? It felt a lot like that. It was almost like a throwback. And I liked it. We sat, we watched, enjoyed the whole thing. My wife didn't fall asleep, which is a good sign. Because she does that a lot. But yeah, so go watch Hunter Killer. It's a new Gerard Butler movie came out. I guess it was made a year or so ago, but the COVID kind of pushed it back, which is fine. But yeah, that's what I did last night, and I enjoyed it. I actually let it roll over, and I watched. While I was working, but I kind of had it on the background. One of my favorite movies. Can you possibly guess what one of my favorite movies would be?
Oh, something about building stuff.
No, I like that too, but that's what YouTube's for. No, Limitless with
Oh
Bradley
yeah,
Cooper.
that's one of his only really good movies, actually.
Well, I like him in
Uh,
Guardians, but
well, yeah, but I mean, it's not even him. He's playing Rocket so strongly that it's like, it's not really Bradley.
fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, I adore that movie. I don't know why. It's like Memento. It's
Yeah.
another, I think that's Guy Ritchie, right?
Mhm.
But I just really love those movies. And Limitless, I watch it every couple of years. So I don't know whether some people like it or not, but I just really, it's so smooth. It's a really interesting premise. And when they came out with the TV show, I was like, "Ooh, neat. I'm gonna watch that." And then I went and
Mhm.
watched it, and it was like basically Shaggy on drugs. And I was like, "No, no, you didn't get that movie at all."
No,
Did you see the TV series and how absolutely wrong-headed it was?
I did not. It
Yeah.
sounds awful.
No, it was
Just
literally Shaggy, and they give him a drug. The cops head him, and they give him the drug every now and then to figure it out. Kind of like some weird hippie monk. You remember that show, Monk?
I do.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, okay, fine. That's a premise in and unto itself, but that's not limitless
Hmm.
because he's smooth as hell in that movie. Even in the beginning where he's, just kind of a disheveled writer, lazy writer, he's still not Shaggy levels of idiocy, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, that was a complete miss, and that's why it didn't last, of course. But I do like that movie. And Limitless was pretty good. Adrian says, "Where's everybody?" I don't know. I don't know, dude. You know, maybe there's a protest we didn't hear about. But nevertheless, we're going to jump into the news here because I do have a shorter window today, so I need to get on it. So go ahead and share my screen. Got now I have in my face some Gina Carano in shape back before she got rather husky. I
Yeah,
think the word I would use. Yeah,
she was pretty fit.
yeah, she was not a bad looking lady, that's for sure. But she's just it's just not my type, dude. But I do like her and I appreciate her. But anyway, let's go ahead and bring this up. There it is. All right, cool. We're on, and
Batgirl
then
star Leslie Grace confirms Batman won't appear in the HBO Max movie.
okay.
That's stupid.
It's more stupid than you think. All right, so there
I
won't
don't
be
know. I
any.
think it's pretty dumb.
Well, there won't be any Batman in this, and they're speculating it's because Batman is going to be killed. Ben Affleck's Batman is going to be killed off, which is the reason why there'll be no Batman around. But the girl, who this Leslie Grace girl, who's going to be playing Batgirl,
Mm.
another redhead replaced, just to give you a heads up warning. But she's very excited. She's much more excited the fact that Harley Quinn will be in her show, or in her movie than she is about playing Batgirl. That's kind of weird to me, but she's so excited. Like, oh, I love her. I love Harley Quinn. I can't wait. She come. It's gonna be great. And I was like, well, you're playing Batgirl. That's your enemy. You should be kicking her ass. But it sounds like they're going to be buddy buds. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Another thing she was really excited about, Thundero, is the fact that J.K. Simmons is going to be playing her dad, Commissioner Gordon. I'm like, all right, rock on. I like him as that,
Hmm.
right? That's a good thing. We got a slight problem, a little bit of a problem, and I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, and I want you in your eminent wisdom, Thundero, to find the problem, if you wouldn't mind. So here's Leslie Grace, nice Dominican girl, with no boobies, and here's J.K. Simmons. Um, okay, all right. I'll give you another look at it. See if you can figure out the problem here. Yeah,
There's a bit of an issue, I think.
a little bit of an issue. So basically, is Batgirl Barbara Gordon? Is she adopted now?
Apparently,
I think we have an
or
adopted situation going on.
he married to a Dominican chick or whatever.
Even then, this is a very Dominican girl, extremely
Yeah.
Dominican girl. I mean, she's not bad looking. I guess they could clean her up a bit, but why? Once again, replacing the redhead. Okay, and why this choice? If you're going to bring in J.K. Simmons, okay, great. Everyone likes him. Well, then just make something that makes sense. But they've given up on that, if you haven't noticed, for quite a
Mm,
while. They don't care if there's any kind of symmetry between what is supposed to be a family. I think the first time that it really stood out strongly to me was with that there was a show my family used to watch, and it had its comedy, Modern Family. I don't know if you ever
mm,
watched it. It's got Ed O'Neill, who I absolutely adore. But it had its moments, but it also was kind of insufferable at the same time. But that was kind of ridiculous. In the main family there, I can't remember the name of them, but you had a mom and dad, and you had three kids, and none of those kids were even close to being anything that would have been produced by those two parents. Even they were all three distinctly different races too.
oh boy.
Yeah. I guess, it's not like it's the end of the world, but a little effort, please. A little bit of effort to, not suspend my disbelief, please.
Mm,
Just a little. And but I mean, can you imagine anything more strong? I mean, maybe if she were a black girl, I guess. But I mean, holy shit, dude. These people are
just
not related.
just dumb.
It's
Dumb,
very
dumb,
dumb.
dumb.
They do have another picture of her here. They got her all lightened up because she's a pretty dark girl, to be honest with you, which is fine. She's Dominican, and nothing wrong with that at all. I don't know. She doesn't have to be pretty. Barbara Gordon doesn't need to be pretty. That's not necessary. Um,
Mhm.
so that's fine. But I just thought it's very weird. Another redhead replaced. But more important than that, um, she's really, truly way more excited about having Harley Quinn in her movie than she is about playing Batgirl. That's I don't know why, but that just kind of stuck in my craw.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
It is, especially seeing as you know, that should be your enemy, girl, right? That's your
Yeah.
enemy, right? And I seriously doubt with HBO Max here, you're going to be getting Margot Robbie because it sounds maybe she's got a little bit of a girl crush on Margot Robbie. But
Mm.
I'd be really, really, really surprised if you got Margot Robbie in your movie. You never know. You never know, but this is going to be one of those CW level movies, I have a feeling. But I don't know. Did you want to did you want to see a Batgirl movie? Was that something you were hanging on?
No, no, I don't think anybody does. What everybody I think does want though is a Nightwing.
Yeah, dating
God's sake,
Batgirl, that would be nice.
that'd be fine.
You could
Why
show
can't why
she could
can't you have a
show up.
Nightwing and Batgirl movie?
Yeah, that
What's
would
the
be
issue?
nice. Yeah. Why is
Uh,
Jameson in Gotham? Come on, Adrian. You know he did both parts. Um, J.K. Simmons is, he's pretty solid actor. He's fun. But yeah, no, I would love to see a Nightwing and Bloodhaven go darker and harder than the Batman stuff. And maybe he's gotten so dark and so hard, and he's it's such a negative relationship with Bruce that where they just are not communicating. Bruce is really worried about him, and Batgirl
mm,
comes in to try to soothe him and try to figure out what's going on, and maybe she saves him through love. What a great story that would be. That would be
could be,
neat, dude.
could be.
Yeah. Because, one of the things, one of the storylines with Nightwing, I think, worked really well. He's always so pissy at Bruce, because he's just a kid and he wants to get out from under, beneath the shadow of the cowl, as it were. And he's so pissy. But, when he gets into it, he realizes the absolute burden and pressure on Bruce's shoulders that he never had to take because Bruce took
Right.
it all. Because it's tough not to. It's easier just to kill the son of a bitch,
Yeah.
right? So that would be a great story. That would be a lot of fun. It would introduce a character most people don't know, and it's still Batman related, right?
Well, you could even have the first. I don't know 30. Yeah, you can even have 60% of the movie be that part of it. They're trying to get out from Bruce's shadow.
Yeah,
Have the last act he finally does, and then that could set up a second movie where you introduce Batgirl later. I mean, you introduce Batgirl in this movie, but that whole storyline plays out, builds to that through the first movie, and then the second movie is kind of like a redemption story for
yeah,
him.
yeah,
They could, if they just had foresight at all at these companies, this wouldn't even be that hard to make. It's pretty much been made in different forms than comic books.
sure,
You could just
sure.
ape the hell out of it and find an actor who can pull off Nightwing, who's can pull off, well, really can pull off Dick Grayson. That's the more important one.
That's true, of
And
course. Yeah,
because
yeah,
Dick is Dick is one of those characters that like everybody likes. Women like him. Even he's very popular with the females. And he's dudes like him. Like he's just a great dude,
yeah.
and overall, and a great character. So you have to find the right actor to be able to pull that off,
You do.
who isn't unlikable.
You do. Yeah,
Um,
and it's a really good point. And Adrian, yeah, we don't need Batgirl. We're just trying to connect it to the story. But just a quick adding in on that. What you need also, this is one of, and I'm going to make a comparison. I think that's very apt for this conversation. A lot of people were, complaining about the complaints that Hayden Christensen playing, Anakin, he was a whiny, insufferable shit
yeah.
because he was. And they're like, well, Luke was whiny too. Yep, he was, but he was also lovable at the same time. And he also, he that hero's journey. And the Hayden Christensen didn't have the ability to kind of deliver what he needed to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a perfect example. You need someone who can be pissy but lovable at the same time, like Mark Hamill was as Luke Skywalker.
Well, Mark also had the benefit of Harrison Ford
Yes,
and the benefit in the first movie of Sir Guinness.
yes,
Um, those helped, and also he also had Carrie Fisher, who in the first movie, at least at the beginning when she shows up, when they meet, she's kind of unlikable. She's snobby and entitled and all these things, and then she obviously comes around and softens up and stuff and starts to fit in better. But at least for me, the first time they run into her, I didn't like her. I was like, oh, ungrateful little bitch. You're here to save you. Like, oh,
well, I wouldn't.
what's she saying? Something about stormtroopers. Oh, you're awfully short for a stormtrooper. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
I don't think she was ever likable.
Well, listen.
Well, I was a bit excited when the Ewoks were going to eat her.
You don't
Uh,
think she was likable by the end?
she did soften, but nah, I'd never been a Leia fan, dude.
But regardless, my point is he had other things around him that helped with that. Whereas in the prequels, the only two people gave really good performances, and that was Ewan McGregor and the dude playing Sidious. But Sidious's performance was designed to be campy as hell, like over the
Yep,
top, ridiculous,
yep,
like a caricature of evil. That's what he is. He's supposed to be the devil. And so you had that. You only had those two, and they weren't together like ever in that series. So you only had Ewan McGregor, who threw. They had to make him kind of a bad father figure because that was the point, right?
hmm
But he's so charming that he's likable as well. Whereas Anakin is just dull as a board. There's only a few times where Hayden pulls off emoting that actually looks like it's real, and it's the "I hate you" scream. That's his best acting he's ever done in his whole career. Because holy shit, does that sound like he means it? And the
yeah,
uh what's the other scene? The scene where he's walking in and he's crying and he draws his sword to kill the younglings. Those are the only two times in that whole thing where his acting is really
yeah.
good.
But they
The
didn't.
rest of it is just passable.
Yeah, it is, and they didn't develop it to why did he become evil? It didn't make sense. There was no
Yeah.
motivation for it. I mean, we're not going to get into the prequels because I mean, there's that's a enormous load of era going on there. But back to this here, I wouldn't necessarily mind a Batgirl movie at all. I like her in the comic book; she's fine. I liked her much better as the Oracle. But I think she's fine. I have no problem with Batgirl at all. I probably like Batwoman better.
Mm.
Even though she's a lesbian. I'm not supposed to, I guess, but I probably like Batwoman better. But it's just kind of silly with it. And I'm sure there's going to be some progressive nonsense in this as usual, but it's not really the point we're sitting here talking about. We're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. No Batman. Your dad is not your dad, clearly.
Like, how does she become Batgirl without Batman?
Yeah. Can you
Make that make sense.
Yeah, can you do me a favor? In the Warner Brothers DC universe has been out here for a while now.
Yeah.
Can you point to one white woman who is in these movies, please?
Just what's her name? Harley Quinn. That's it.
Margot
But I
Robbie,
can.
and she's a
Yeah.
villain. She's not a
Well, I
hero.
guess technically his Aquaman's mom was white. She's white in that movie, and
Okay,
his dad's
yeah,
the Polynesian guy.
yeah,
But she's like, I mean, I guess she's a big plot point, but she's kind of just a plot device
yeah. They
in
should
that
have
movie.
cut that completely out. It didn't
Yeah,
work at all. But they should have cut an hour out of that movie, to be honest with you.
yeah, at
Okay,
least.
so there's a couple. Because I was sitting here thinking, it was like, man, they really don't have any white
Well, and
ladies.
Wonder Woman.
Well, she's a Jew. I mean,
Well, yeah, but
you know. Um,
they definitely don't have any gingers. Gingers are not permitted.
no, I don't know. They
And if
hate
you
the
even
gingers.
bring a ginger near the set, it'll explode. Apparently,
Yeah,
because they're not allowed anywhere in Hollywood at all.
I
In
guess
fact,
so. Yeah. I mean, they got a few white dudes. A couple of white dudes. But I just, they really don't have. They've really kind of nixed the white lady thing. And here's an opportunity. You could have done one, but nope. We get this.
well, listen, she's a redhead. We can't be having that.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know
fair.
what it is about Hollywood disdain for the redhead, but it's obvious and obviously intentional because every single character that is supposed to be a redhead turns into this right here every time, even
Yeah.
males.
Well, they're
Why?
usually much more African, to be honest with you.
True.
But so they're at least we're halfway, I guess. But
Yeah.
I don't have any. No, I don't know anything about this girl. I don't have anything against this girl whatsoever. I don't care. But it's just once again, why can't we just make Barbara Barbara? I mean, what's the problem here? But whatever. Enjoy. It's coming. It's coming. So let's move on. Oh my God.
Watch the first Hawkeye trailer right here. I have not watched it.
Can I
I've
can
seen
I
some people say it was okay,
can I
but we'll see.
decline?
No, you will do as you're told, Chester. That's the way the world is now. This wasn't a question. If you would prefer to watch it, you will watch it right here.
But they don't have
But
an
you can do it later.
exclamation mark.
You can do it later, though. They're not saying when.
Yeah, that's true. But uh, you know, uh, you set up so perfectly for his daughter to be the next Hawkeye. And that would have made a lot more sense. All of a sudden, you have this new character no one knows about that you're going to have to you have to completely introduce her. Now we understand it from the comic book, this incredibly failed comic book. I mean, just failed amongst a huge list of failed regendering of superheroes. At least in this case, it is a different person. Right, but that
Mm-hmm.
comic was boring as shit because once again, what it is girls' slumber party time. We're gonna have tea. I got some scones. I mean, that's what that was again, right? Because that's, I guess, what the woke girls like slumber parties.
Yeah.
Okay, isn't that kind of like a 12-year-old girl thing to do? I don't
Well, you
know.
see, they're in perpetual adolescence. That would be why they
Yeah,
don't want to grow up. They still
yeah.
see themselves as children well into their 30s.
I
And I'll be
guess.
honest, I almost fell into that trap in my early 20s. I didn't see myself as an adult. I just didn't. It didn't happen until I got till about 26. And then it just like clicked over in my brain and I became more responsible and was working,
Yeah,
60 hours a week and stuff, take care of my
sure.
ex and her kid and stuff. Like it's just these last two generations have been infantilized so much that they do not see themselves as adults. And they think being an adult is work instead of just the default. that they should be.
Yeah, that's
And
true. Yeah, I didn't really have a choice in the matter. I had to grow up pretty quick.
yeah,
So, it is what it is. But the only thing in it, and of course, Josh makes the comment over here that this is Disney Plus. This is not going to the theater. And here's the thing: it's a Christmas movie.
a Christmas
I'm
movie.
not shitting you. And I'm thinking it might be a comedy because basically he's going home for the holidays, gets on a train, and a problem happens on the train, it sounds like, or something in and out of New York. But it's, Jingle All the Way. Remember that movie with Sinbad and Arnold Schwarzenegger? I got those vibes strongly from it. So, okay. Alrighty. Christmas movie with Clint Barton. Ah, and
Uh,
boy, did he get ugly. And this
and boy,
girl,
did he get shafted. Why did we not get to see more Ronin action?
that would have
That
been
was like
great.
the
Yeah,
best part of that movie.
it would have been. Yeah,
That like 5 minutes or whatever it was, however long it was, of him being Ronin was awesome. I would love to have seen like that's what this. I don't know if that's maybe that's what the series is not going to be, but that's what it should have been. It should have been him as Ronin, his time as Ronin in that 5 year stretch. That could have been awesome. That could have been an awesome thing to see.
it would have been neat. Yeah. And keep in mind he was in a Bourne movie, and it was actually well. The idea was well crafted, how it was connected, right?
Mm.
And It wasn't a bad movie. I mean, he can do the job of an actor, but Hollywood doesn't like him because he doesn't say the right things. I think that's his problem. And he's not big enough to say, well, fuck off then. He isn't, and that's the problem with him. But whatever, I shan't be watching this. I don't care. I really have kind of got to the point where I don't give a shit. I'm not interested in the new Matrix movie. I'm not interested in any of it. I'm really not. So no, Marvel. No. Screw you. Next. Oh, this is a wonderful story.
New Warriors showrunner claims show was canceled because it was quote unquote too gay.
Okay. This isn't the newest article. It's from a week or so ago, but I put it up here because I had because I want to ask you in the chat a question. Okay. Now, as we go through, I'm not going to go through the article itself, but I'm going to just tell you what it says. The guy, the showrunner, the guy who made was working on putting the movie together, or the show, or whatever it was they were doing. Um, they went way over the top. It's super gay, lots of homosexual characters, lots of homosexual references, and he says that a single mid-tier exec said it's too gay and canceled it. Right, and he went on. The whole thing is him deriding this single exec, and him giving an example of how wonderful the gayness of it was, and how great it would have been for young kids to see the gayness. Um, but here's the question I have. Does anyone here actually believe that a single mid-tier exec can cancel a movie? Anybody?
No, no,
Right.
no.
There's nowhere, no way. Even a high level exec would find themselves difficult to cancel a project that's been greenlit, right? There is obviously other reasons, and this Beagle guy, this Kevin Beagle, he's clearly full of it. But he's feeling frisky, may do something uncouth. He said a singular power that be killed the show because it was too gay, a rich straight Brentwood turd. Now, help me out a little bit. What's a Brentwood turd, please?
I have absolutely no idea.
Anybody know what that is? Yeah, I agree, Grimlock. Someone look up Brentwood turd or Brentwood, figure out what that is. But he goes on and on here, and he's blaming this one guy, and he says the guy got fired because he was a piece of shit. Okay, fine. But he's got a little blurb from the script here showing how awesome it is. He's showing off the amazingness of it. So, as far as I can tell, I'm the only one like me, black, queer, powered. When I was a kid, I didn't have anyone like me to look up to tell me things were going to be okay. Maybe I can be that person for some little girl out there. Yeah, that was my lesbian voice. No,
Uh,
it was a little bit
I
funny.
hope
Come on, it was a
I
little bit
hope you
funny.
don't run into any women that sound like that.
But he's just going on a tear here, and he's all upset with this one guy. And here's a set photo. Oh, it looks wonderful. He's got a couple set photos and a little bit of what she looked like. Now the girl playing Squirrel Girl, it's much better than the comic was. You know, when they turned her gay, right? Because keep in mind, Squirrel Girl was this little, I don't know what you would call her, a MacGuffin type of character that has been around for quite a while, and it was kind of this joke character that would show up every now and then. And of course, could defeat anybody. That was the joke, and they took that and they twisted it into something unfun. We have not Chris Pratt here. That was involved in the cast, but she's a much better choice than it could have been. She's not. She's cute, so okay, fine. I think she's cute, and that's not Chris Pratt, even though they want it to be. One thing about that Hunter Killer I watched last night, it's got a couple of stars in it, but what it does have is a lot of people that look like famous people. I thought that was pretty interesting. You could see the wheels turning in the casting director for that movie. But yeah, so she's cute enough, though, don't you think? I mean, this could have been worse, dude. It could have been worse,
Much worse, yeah.
much worse. But of course, she's super gay, and everybody else is super gay, and I imagine a lot of the dialogue was about them being gay. And that's probably why the executives in general were like, nah, no, wait, cut our losses while we can, because it's one thing having a gay character, it's another thing just constantly talking about your gay character being gay, right?
Mm.
Yeah, I just really my question was very very simple. Do you really think a mid-tier exec has the power to cancel a project? Of course not. So this guy is just out of his mind as usual. They recently changed Squirrel Girl into cute again instead of someone with a case of the Downs. Yeah, no, that's true. That is true because she did have a case of the Downs. And I don't know why they did that. It was quite insulting. But if you ever listen to an interview with a lady who did this, the lesbian version of Squirrel Girl, she's incredibly intolerable. Just a horrible human, but which is sad because Squirrel Girl was always kind of fun, cool little character. I know you're not as a deep comic book nerd as I am, but Squirrel Girl was always kind of fun, and I remember way back there was an Android game came out. Well, I guess it was just a mobile game that came out, and it had it was a simple little game, so my son could play it very easily. Right, this is a long time ago, way back. I mean, what, this must have been 10 years or more ago. But anyway, and they had all the little Marvel heroes, and you could play them and make your team and stuff like that. And Squirrel Girl came up as a character you could get. And my son was like, "Who's this?" Because he had no clue who she was, right? Because I bought the comics I bought for them were very specific to what they liked, right? And I
Mm.
explained, "Oh, well, she's this," and my son actually became a huge Squirrel Girl fan because of the goofy nature of what she was, right? And we all
Yeah.
did. We all like Squirrel Girl, and I can argue that what was done to Squirrel Girl is one of the worst bastardizations we have seen by Marvel. So
It was pretty bad. Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty bad stuff.
But anyway, this is done, and we're not getting it. So good. And grow up, Beagle,
Beagle.
whatever. But not Chris Pratt. Really looks a lot like Chris Pratt. It's shocking
Yeah.
how much he looks like Chris Pratt. But anyway, let's move on here. I don't know if you're ready for this.
I've
This
seen it.
oh
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. hmm Yeah.
okay.
Fuck Marvel forever. Fuck 'em. Fuck Disney
Yeah.
forever. Fuck Hemsworth forever. Fuck every. I don't even care if you worked on catering in that movie. Fuck you too and your family.
Yeah.
All of them get my ire for the rest of their days and their grandkids if I had lived to see them.
Yeah.
Kick him walking down the road. You were related to him? Kick him.
Yeah.
Just kick him one
Um,
time.
this is Ragnarok, the new god of war. And of course, they have Fat Thor, which doesn't really make sense. And he's referencing the fact that Endgame influenced it. And it probably did, because we're going to see another little bit of wokeness going on here, which is pretty sad. But the thing is, Thor, Odin is the boss. I mean, he is the All Father, right? But Odin is more about the wisdom, and he's actually one of the better lead gods, king gods, right? Because a lot of them, like, we know all the stories are the same, but they're all kind of taken the culture, the cultural feel has. You can see that that's the difference between all the stories. Clearly, long, long, long time ago, there was some universal story that spread around the planet, however it got spread, and those stories have stuck with us. And that's why all the gods, all the old animistic gods, are all the same on all their stories are quite shockingly the same. But the cultural influence certainly is involved with it. And Odin is not as rapey or nasty as some of these other king gods are. But Thor,
And in
it
fact, when Odin did commit a rape, he was punished by him. He punished himself effectively because
yes,
nobody else could punish him for
yes,
it.
yes, yes, that is true. But Thor was brash, drunkard, absolutely troublesome. But the thing with it
Yeah.
is, nobody could beat Thor, not even Odin. Thor was this just devastation of
Yes.
combat. And does this guy look like a devastation of combat to you?
He looks like a devastation of donuts.
He looks kind of like me
Like
without the red hair. Although my gut is not that big, but
why?
it's kind of my
Why
body style, to be honest with you.
you're gonna go with a more traditional looking Mjolnir? You give him the right hair color. Well, it's actually not the right hair. It should be way redder than that. Um, and longer. But okay. But then you make him fat. Show me any Norse depiction of Thor where he's fat. Just give me one even. I would
Yeah,
like to see because I've never seen it. Never
no,
seen any of it where they described him as a burly man, is what they probably something
never,
to that effect. Right?
never.
Never.
Now some of the Vergar are described that way.
Yes.
But of course, that's what we call dwarves today, so it kind of makes sense. But not Thor. Thor, this is weird. It is weird. And you're right. I can't find any other reason why this wouldn't be influenced by Endgame, because if we remember the little cutscene at the end of the first, Norse version of the God of War, we have Thor showing up, and you didn't see the whole body. You just saw kind of a little bit of it, but it didn't have this stature. So they
Mm-mm.
changed their mind from the first game. This is not what they originally were going to represent. It's not.
And
So
I don't want to hear this because I can already hear the apologists. Well, maybe it's part of the story why he's fat. Maybe shut the just shut up.
no,
Just shut up.
they're just
Thor would
yeah,
never allow himself to be fat ever. That's just not who he is. He's like Chester said. He's living war. He
he
is
is.
unstoppable as a warrior. Do you think warriors in this day were fat? No,
No,
couldn't be. They were constantly training, constantly doing physical fitness, constant. That was their life.
it
The
was.
reason why modern day practitioners of like HEMA and other things could never touch an ancient warrior is because they're doing it for like a sport. These guys, this was their life. It was sunrise to sunset. They were preparing for
Or
war.
death. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So
Um,
no, Thor would not be fat. He would be big. He'd be have some stature on him. Maybe a little. Maybe have a. He wouldn't be necessarily ripped, but he'd be buff.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be a fat boy.
Although keep in mind, Thor was not the tallest or largest of the Norse god, the Aesir.
Correct.
He wasn't. But okay, this is clearly dumb influence they shouldn't have taken. Did you really not see the backlash against Fat Thor? Did you really not? But it gets worse though. It gets worse. Are you ready? Yeah. Of course, here is an actual warrior body.
Yes.
Maybe a little exaggerated, but that's okay. It's a video game.
Yeah.
And but Kratos, of course. You got his son. I guess he's slightly aged up a year, maybe,
Maybe a year or two.
which
Yeah.
makes sense. That the cutscene was a year later or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. But who's this?
I don't know. That's what made me tap out. I was like, okay,
Okay.
what?
No,
Because you don't even really see Thor in the trailer still, right? You just see his back still. So
yeah.
I didn't know about the Fat Thor thing till after, and then I saw this clearly African young lady, and
Okay.
I said, just what is all I could say? I just stopped. I stopped. I didn't watch anymore. I stopped it. I said,
Well,
okay,
let the anthropologist help you out a little bit because I know exactly who Anger Boda is. Most people don't. Most people don't, but I do, of course. One of my initial focuses when I first went into college was Norse history, archaeology, mythology. That was my one of my initial things. But my
yeah,
professors, because I was good at language, they said you should probably do this, and I was like, all right, fine. But so I actually know quite a bit about Norse stuff. The Angerboda is basically, are you ready? It's
yeah.
Loki's wife. Yeah. She is a Jotun, of course, as is Loki. They're Jotuns, right?
So now
And
the Jotuns are black people. Is that what we're
well,
doing?
but Loki's not. So, and we saw other Jotuns, and none of them were black. So she's like the only black Jotun, I guess. But the thing with the Jotun is, in modern times, we've really kind of made them these giants with blue skin, and
Yeah,
Marvel certainly played a part in that as well.
monstrous.
But that's not how the Jotun were described. You got to keep in
Right,
mind that the Jotun and the Aesir and the Vanir and all of these groups, they are never really described as gigantic. They never
correct.
are. They're not, the whole, yeah, they were certainly taller than normal, but they're not giant, giant, right? That's not how they're ever described. And they did intermix and they did have political interaction. There, it wasn't monstrous. If you read the stories, it's really like, well, these people over here in this country, and the Jotuns
Right,
are over here in that country, and they even have words for it. We got three. They kind of split their world into three, and each of those three worlds had three areas in them. Therefore, you get the nine realms. You had Midgard, you had Asgard, and you had Utgard. Have you ever heard that word before?
yeah.
Yeah, good,
Well, I have,
because
of
most
course.
people haven't. And then of course you had all the different places, Niflheim, and all those other places, Alfheim and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, this is stupid woke crap. Go to hell. This is a
Yeah.
Norse story. It is not an African story. You do have yourself a foreigner in here. Fine. You
Yeah.
have narratively written him into it. Great. This is nothing to do with Norse mythology. Now, imagine we were doing a game and we were in that game was set in, say, Africa or India or Asia, and we just randomly threw a white person in, right?
Yeah.
How much roar would you hear from the idiots, right?
Oh,
But
it would be unceasing, the roar.
yes, yes.
You would literally hear it from the internet. Like if you're sitting, you're not even on the internet. You just be, uh oh, there's disturbance in the force. It would be so much.
Yeah,
It's preposterous. Look, if you want to bring in an African themed character, cool. There's plenty of African gods you could have up in this clash of gods that you're doing, right? It's Ragnarok. It's the end of the
sure.
world. Why not? Bring some in, be like, hey, we're interested in this, blah blah blah, and here we are. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
There's some pretty cool African gods they could play with that could be fun to
yeah,
watch.
yeah. And American
And in,
Gods was playing with that a little bit, and that's cool,
yeah,
right? That was
yes. And
interesting.
instead, what they do is they have to shoehorn the wrong type of skin color into the wrong area in an era where it makes absolutely no sense just to make white liberals feel better. Because I'm telling you right now, all the black folks I've ever talked to, when you show them this stuff, they don't like it. They feel like they're being insulted from my experience with them. Like it's insulting to them. They look at it and they're like, "Oh, come on, man. We want our own characters. We don't want to be slapdashed on top of somebody else as if that's sufficient That's
Yeah, no,
acceptable.
handy down crap. Yeah,
Yeah.
stupid Newfie says like gods of Egypt. There's the chat is definitely has an opinion on this, and that's cool. Actually, the one thing that stood out as a sore thumb in gods of Egypt was the black guy playing Thoth. That was the weird thing because if you read
Right.
the description of the Egyptian gods when they're in their human form and not in their animal headed form, they're all giant, very tall. I don't mean 20-foot tall. I mean like 8, 9 foot tall.
Yes.
White skinned, light
Yes.
eyed, and light haired people, as all gods around the world are described, because this is coming from some ancient universal story, right?
Mhm.
So in that movie, the one person who was standing out incorrectly was the black dude, right?
Yes.
But
For the same reason, because they feel they must,
they
and
have
that
to.
is so insulting to everybody. Like it's insulting to people who actually care about the mythoses that they're aping to some degree, and it's insulting, which would be the fans of these things, and it's insulting to the people they think they're representing by giving them a hand me down and pandering to them because they don't have the, oh, I don't know, the actual conviction to bring in a character of that race that makes sense. I'll give you a perfect example of doing this correctly. Gladiator.
Yeah.
Maximus's best friend, that black guy whose name escapes me, perfect example. He's an North African slave who they bring in to fight.
Yeah, and it's
Makes
period
sense.
accurate. It would have you would have certainly seen plenty of Africans in the Roman Empire, but it's just nonsense. And once again, it's following that trope. You can't have a white boy with a white girl. You can't. It's not allowed, and vice versa. But just to let you know, the mother of Fenrir and Yomenjörger and others, just that's kind of what she looks like. Just
Yeah.
yeah,
Kind of an important character in Norse. How they
yeah.
do it? There's going to have to be a serious time skip if this is going to be Ragnarok. Because how is 13-year-old or whatever he is, 11-year-old Loki, going to impregnate a woman that gives birth to a giant wolf?
Well, I
How's
think,
that going to happen?
yeah, that is weird. Yeah, that is something weird. But you know how they are these days. They are creepy
Oh,
that way.
did you
Um,
see Tyr in there too?
I
Tyr
did.
was
I'm
a
going to get
giant.
to it. I'm going to get to
Why
it.
was Tyr a giant? And everybody, all the other gods, the Norse gods that we've seen so far are normal size, but Tyr is like 9 foot tall. What? Why?
Yeah, especially as the mythology in the first game definitely was leaning heavily on Tyr being very important, which he was.
Yeah,
Here's Freya, which we saw, and she was fine. I thought she was interesting. Of course, Mimir, which we have a blue dwarf and a not blue dwarf. Okay, and he's kind of okay.
it's very
Uh,
Indian.
he does. But then again, the Dvergar, or dwarves. I know we have this Middle Earth version or vision of
Yeah,
dwarves, and that's fine. I actually prefer it. But in the old Norse tales, they're not short at all. They're matter of fact, the way they're described is normal height with jet black skin. I mean, jet black. Right, and if you read the old Norse stories, it shows you that they're actually some of the older stories because you can take all of these cosmologies from around the world, and they all have these general. There's obviously is coming from a root source, right? But you can
yeah.
tell which ones are older and not based on how fantastical they are. The
Mm,
Greek ones are definitely got into the point where it was more fantasy than realistic, so it's a much later. And of course, if you look at it, it is much later. Whereas the older ones, like the Celtic ones, and the Mesopotamian ones and the Norse ones, it's less fantastical and more realistic.
mm.
Right, and that's the farther back in time you go, that's what happens. It's not the opposite, which you would expect. But if you read them, the Norse Eddas and the sagas and all the information that we have, which is lacking. Let's be honest, we don't have enough information because the Christians burned it all. Fuck them. Right.
Yeah,
But anyway, what it really looks like they're describing with the nine realms is Europe and North Africa. It's really
pretty much.
what
Yeah,
sounds like they're describing, right?
I've seen some say that some of it. Can't remember which race now, but one of them. It sounds like they may have been steppe people. Um,
Might
and
have
that's
been.
basically what they're like. There's different interpretations, of course, like because
Sure.
everything, right?
But the
But
Vergar could have
that's
easily been
pretty
black
much
Africans, right?
that's pretty much what most people's take on it is. It's a fantastical version of basically just their understanding of the world, and they just embellished it, which every single group of people in the history of the world has done.
Yeah.
Um, so it makes sense. To me, it makes sense. And a lot of their stuff, like you were saying, a lot of their mythology is way older than what we think of as the Vikings. The
Yeah,
people
no,
that
it's way
where
older.
they got it
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
is old stuff, super
It's
old.
it's not as old as the Celts.
No,
And I'm talking about Ireland, right?
yeah,
Theirs is clearly much, much older. But then again, there's a lot of evidence that's come out over the past 10, 15 years that's starting to lean us to the fact that the Irish stories might be the older ones than even the
yeah.
Mesopotamian ones, which is weird. That shouldn't be that way, but that's what it seems to be. Uh, but
Thing
I,
that should.
but I'm of a group that believes the evidence is demonstrating because obviously before the cataclysm there was a culture that had traveled around the world. We've
Yes,
with the Cyclopean construction and the polygonal stuff, it's clearly a universal architectural style that's quite advanced. We see all
yeah,
over the planet. So I'm not saying there necessarily it was like today, but there at least was a culture or a large culture that had outposts all over the world. Let's just go make it as minimal as possible, okay? But I think what the evidence is showing is Ireland wasn't a country at all. It was a religious center. And
hmm.
I think that's where they trained the priests, and I think that's what Ireland was. It was not a country. It was a place that the Druids or the Aryan, would be actually what they probably would have been called at that time, were being trained. Because Aryan is not a race; it's a job title, right?
Hmm.
But anyway, I mean, the point being is that these Norse stories are pretty old, and therefore they're much more realistic. There is some fantasy in it, but there's definitely more realistic, and there is racial representation. And I think it's clearly talking about the dynamic of Europe and North Africa, which has always been part of the European story, by the way. I
Of
think
course.
that's what it's describing. So having black people involved in it is not the issue. It's
No,
not the issue at
no. The
all.
issue is the fact that they took
It's a
a
Jotun.
very important character in the story and just slapped paint on it basically to make it
Yeah,
into an African girl.
yeah,
If they're doing the only reason they're doing it, it's the reason they're doing it. If they just did that and it was just this story, the Utens come from here and boom, okay, cool, I guess, interesting twist. But that's not why they're doing it. They're doing it strictly because they want to adhere to some quota that they've been had put on them or have taken on themselves that they must have X amount of important non-white characters in here,
yeah,
and that's why they did it. That's
yeah.
that's the only reason they
It's
did it. And
it's
any other
ridiculous.
excuse they give you is nothing but an excuse, and it's pathetic. It's disgusting, and it should be insulting to everybody. But some
It should
people
be.
like it because they're simpletons. I don't
Yeah,
know what other way to put it.
well, you're dealing with a people's mythology here, and
Yeah,
let's be a little respectful, right? Now, having the dwarves be something other than white makes sense because they're described as that.
correct.
So this it's not about not anything, non-white being involved in the story because they are,
Yeah,
but certainly not uh, Loki's wife.
like
And
like imagine if we went in this company, this exact same company, right? They decided to make a Wukong game, and instead of making him a monkey man, because that's what he is, a monkey man,
yeah,
they make him into a rhino. Just cause he's a rhino now, he's a rhino man. You think the Chinese would be cool with that?
no, but
I
I'd
don't think
buy
they'd be
that
cool
game
with it.
though.
I would too. It sounds interesting,
Yeah,
but they wouldn't be cool with it because it's
no,
their mythology. It's
it is.
their
It's
culture,
disrespectful.
and you should respect it enough to at least try to represent it as accurately as
But
possible.
they don't care
And
about that.
things like a fat Thor is disrespectful.
It
Things
is.
like a black Jotun is disrespectful to the culture,
It is.
to
It
where it
is.
comes from. And there's still millions of people, by the way, who view these as gods. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
religion is not totally dead. It's not dead at
No.
all. Actually,
Well, the
growing.
Christians never got their claws into Scandinavia like they did other places. Never did.
Yes. The Norse
Yeah.
gods, there's in fact still a temple, the first temple to Thor ever built in the New World, aka the Americas, was just built recently somewhere in Canada. And this is, yeah, it's still a real religion, still practiced by people. Could you imagine if they just were going to make a game about the rise of Islam and they made Muhammad into, like, I don't know, a gay man? How much literal bombings that would happen because they did that? It's the same thing, though. It's still a culture. It's still, to some people, their religion. It should be treated with respect.
It
I have
should
no
be.
problem with people wanting to tell stories from other parts of the world. I think that's wonderful. Do
Yeah.
that, but try and be respectful of the place you're doing it from. I think that's
Yeah.
a perfectly reasonable thing to ask.
No, I agree. Adrian says, Cheshire, have you seen the pyramids in the Arctic? Well, I mean, there's pyramids all over the world. They're literally all over the world. Pyramids were
Yeah,
definitely a thing. We got Meadow Blood here. Definitely has opinion, and I don't know that I disagree with you 100%, dude. I like good comics, but I'm also political. Yeah, okay. The reason for that doesn't have to read that one. Let's see here. A lot of old DC comics were political, sure. Just look at the Dennis O'Neil Green Lantern books. Comic book fans should stop complaining about politics in comics because comics were always political. Okay. I can understand some of the criticism these SJWs have gotten, but not every show or movie or comic with diversity is bad. Who said that? Of course not. That's not the point at all. There are some really good shows and movie comics that promote diversity. Sure. Always have been,
yeah,
dude. Always have
yeah.
been.
Like
Yeah.
X-Men. X-Men's
Yeah.
great at that. They've always been great. Well, until recently, they've always been great at that. And it's one of my. It's probably my favorite series of comics. Was that, especially that 80 to about 95-ish X-Men run, was just great
Yeah.
stuff. And that was
Well,
when most of that was with a black lady leading it, and it was awesome. Storm
yeah,
was a
yeah,
great
that's
lead.
true. And you got to keep in mind, comic books have always been the ones pushing the envelope. What do you think that comic book authority the code came from? You think it was just because of violence? Do you really, really?
No,
Because they were
no,
always having all kind of people in this. Some people didn't like that, right?
yeah.
Because there are actual racists in the world, guys, and they come in all colors.
The,
You
the
people
big
just need to
problem
give things a
with
chance. Of course we do. That's not the point at all, my metal. Let me finish this, please. And I think metal, you're missing the point. You're completely
yeah,
missing the point. We have no trouble with diversity at all. Matter of fact, we like it. We have no problem with politics either. It's fine. Most everything in life can be made political. What I think you're missing is we're not talking about not having diversity. We're talking about people disrespecting diversity. Because if you
that's right.
think that these progressives are actually diverse, you're really not paying attention. Because they're the opposite of diverse. They are against anything that they don't agree with being involved in anything. They want to cut it out because they think it's a cancer. So that's the opposite of diverse. These identity politics are all about hate. That's what we're talking about. We have no trouble with diversity whatsoever. And I think we just talked about it with the dwarves, the fact that they shouldn't be white dudes,
That's
right?
right.
It's people like Tolkien who made them white dudes. They were never white dudes. But this
Did he
right
actually? I'm trying to think. Does he describe him as white, or did everybody just kind of assume that?
That's fair. I don't recall offhand, but probably he does though. But this right
Probably.
here is not a Jotun woman. This is not Loki's wife. She was very clearly described,
Yeah,
and this is not what you call diversity metal. This is what you call hate. This is disrespecting this culture's gods. This is also disrespecting black people is what it's doing. So
yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to touch on that.
It's diminishing to them.
Yes, it is.
That's why it bugs me. I don't care about no racism or any of that stuff because I think that's all fake and gay.
Yeah,
But the reality of this is what it does is it diminishes these people as credible because what they're basically doing is they say in order to get this type of person into our story, we must in fact, and they'll tell you this right to your face, they must in fact wash over an established character in the lore. And that's silliness. That's nonsense.
It's
That's nonsense
ridiculous.
talk.
It's
There's no
unnecessary.
reason for that.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially when you already have Kratos, who's an outsider to this story,
yeah.
right, to this world. Why can't there just be another one who came looking for Kratos, who just happens to be black? Done.
Yeah,
There you go.
and besides, the reason they went up to the Norse stuff is because it's very popular. They could have
Yes,
just as easily taken Kratos down into Kush or Ethiopia, because those cultures were very powerful at that time, and you could have had all kinds of interesting stories down there if they wanted to do that. But they never pull the trigger on Africa, do they? Do they? They keep
no, they're
talking about it. They keep wanting to do their
terrified of it.
representation and all the diversity, but they never pull that trigger on Africa. Why do you think that is?
Man, there's so much cool stuff they could do with
But
Africa
they
too.
don't. Why do you think that is?
Because they just really what it is it's a disdain for European culture and Eurocentrism is what they call it, or white centered or whiteness as they got all these buzzwords. Really, what they mean is just white folks. They don't like white folks' culture being dominant in media
Yeah.
because they don't like white folks.
Well, I'll
That's
tell
just
you,
the
I
reality.
understand that, but I'll tell you why they don't pull the trigger and make something in Africa. I'm going to tell you straight up why they don't do it. Because they don't respect black people.
Well, yeah,
Have you
yeah, of
paid
course,
attention for over the past frickin' 60 years? Have you been paying attention? These people have no respect for blacks whatsoever. They see them as inferior. And that's how the Democrats, liberals, treat black people. And that's why you don't see anything that's African centric. Why
yeah.
not? This is part of this whole nonsense. So get out of
You know
here with
what's
that
funny, Chester?
diversity
You know what's
crap.
funny, Chester, is my thing that I'm writing. The main character is well, he's technically black, but he's also a race all of its own called Victon. But they basically in normal lighting would just look like a light skinned African,
Yeah.
right? And then at like dawn or dusk, with that type of shade, they have a silvery tint to their skin.
Uh-huh.
Um, but other than that, every other time they would just look like they're from Africa. And one of the reasons for that is one, that's just always what I've seen the character as in my head, and two, I hate the fact that we can't get that. We can't have nice stories with these people without shoehorning them into something else. They don't get their own stories, and the only one of the only times we do get it, like Black Panther, they have to turn it into like some kind of cultural thing instead of just letting the movie be a movie
Yeah.
and let's just enjoy it. And they have to try and make it like I remember when Black Panther came out, you had a whole bunch of people on Twitter saying white folks aren't allowed in the theaters. You're not allowed to
Yeah,
go
it's
see
so
this
dumb.
movie. Like,
Why do
what are you
it's the white people that made Black Panther popular in the beginning. We're the
oh,
ones that
so
read the
a
comic
white
books.
Jewish guy created him.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, we love Black Panther. But anyway, let me continue on with this here. And Pablo, hey Pablo, how you doing, dude? He says maybe we could have God of War with Shaka Zulu. Well, a few thousand years separate, but why not? They could do, what does stupid say? They're gonna do like Kevin Sorbo in the last season of Hercules and do the Pantheon
I like
World
that.
Tour and do Egypt
I like
next.
it.
Why not? I mean,
I
why
love it.
not? Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
I love Egyptian mythology. I think it's one of the best ones,
it is
and it
fun.
could be really fun, real fun. I think one of the best parts about Assassin's Creed Origins was that it leaned heavily into Egyptian mythology, and that was
Yeah,
awesome.
it was neat. Yeah, but I am very happy that Tyr still has his hands. Thank you for not being stupid. That's good. Because just so you know, this young lad here and this young lass haven't made Fenrir yet.
That's true.
So
Yeah, I forgot
um,
about that because I was complaining about that the other day, but I forgot that he's the father of Loki because reasons, and that makes more sense now. If they haven't, Fenrir doesn't exist yet, so Tyr should have both of his hands. But it looked like Tyr was in a prison. What's that about? Why is he in prison? What's going on there?
I don't know. But I don't. How are they going to deal with this young love here? They're a
It's
bit.
gonna have
They're
to
a
be
bit
aged up.
young, dude.
He's
They're a
gonna
bit
have to
young.
be aged up at some point. I don't know what's gonna cause it, or if there's gonna be a big time skip in the game, or if this is part one of Ragnarok and they're gonna do a part two later where he's older. There's Tyr. It doesn't make any sense why Ragnarok is happening with a young Loki who doesn't even know Thor yet. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, no, that's true. Let me just kind of let this roll a little bit because there is more details in the trailer here. It's Yeah, no, I didn't play the first game. My son did, and he absolutely loved it. And a lot of people loved it. However, I did go because my son urged me. He said it's a really good story, so I went and watched on YouTube. They had a complete cinematic where I could watch the movie, right? And I was, it's not bad. I mean, it's not accurate, but that's okay. And once again, we don't really have trouble with adaptation.
Yeah,
Just kind of stick to your source material a little bit, please.
yeah.
I am surprised he's not aged up more, aren't you?
Yeah, I am too. And again, it's just Data Boy. My whole problem with the new God of War games is it's not God of War.
Well, that's fair.
It's not a bad story at all, from what I understand. It looks like it's actually a great game, fun to play and everything. Not God of War. They took away all of the what they would call toxic masculinity. I would just call it true to form Greek mythos stuff. They took that out entirely, and then also tried to paint that as if it was bad. And I don't appreciate that. I want God of War. I want
Yeah,
that over the top. And the Norse stuff is just as over the top and ridiculous.
it
I
is.
want I want that. That's what I want. I want it to be that fantastical ridiculousness
Yeah.
that everybody
Well,
knows playing God of War is obviously supposed to be over the top and ridiculous. Nobody expects it to be realistic in
yeah.
how life was back in ancient Greece. Crying out
Well, I
loud.
mean, you're right. However, they clearly made a decision to go in a different direction, right?
Oh no,
Um,
the director quite straight said that it was about toxic masculinity. They
uh,
wanted to promote positive masculinity with a more fatherly version of Kratos. He
oh,
just straight
okay.
said that. Like, it wasn't. That's not even me making that up or reading into it. That was a quote from the guy who did it, who changed it.
Yeah, but Kratos has never been a good guy. I mean, he's not a
No,
hero. I mean,
no, he's a Greek. It was a
he's
Greek hero,
come
which
out
most
and
of their
face
heroes,
me, Ares. Yeah, he's a god of
most of their
vengeance. Yeah,
heroes, Booster's gone. Most of their heroes are like that. They're very because heroism to them wasn't about morality; it was about courage and discipline
that's
and
true.
determination.
Yeah,
Whereas we have taken it post Christianity into a much more moral place about being passionate and good to people and charitable and merciful. It wasn't like that to the Greeks. That's why Heracles wasn't merciful at all. He wiped out whole groups of people if he had
oh
to. He
yeah,
didn't
no,
care.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. But it is interesting. I'm wondering if they're bringing a little of the Greek up to it involved here, or they're yeah. Why is he so tall? But they're also seen to, or that is Cernunnos. I'm not sure what they're doing with that centaur that I saw. Oh, yay, 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 yay,
Mister, why did you
yay.
come in here and leave immediately? What are you doing?
Because he wanted to make his Ares comment. But alrighty then. Whatever. Fat Thor and unfortunately, Angerboda, I apologize. You didn't get no love. I apologize. Oh
Dumb,
well.
dumb, dumb, dumb.
Yeah. Anyway, let's. I really got to move along here, but let me deal with this one here. I think this one right here. Yeah, go ahead.
Peacemaker first look reveals Christopher Smith's new team, including Freddie Stroma as Vigilante.
All right. So this is happening way quicker than I thought it was, because this is being shot. This is in production right now. The Peacemaker, HBO's Peacemaker is happening, and there it is. A set photo. So, what do you think about this, dude?
Eh, I don't know. I liked him as Peacemaker. I thought he did fine,
He was
Cena.
fine. Yeah.
I just don't know if there's more meat on this bone, to be honest. I mean, let's be honest. The movie flopped. The Suicide Squad was a flop.
Unfortunately, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it just didn't make money. Now, apparently they don't care because they're pressing ahead. But I just don't see this as being a big money maker. And that's kind of a shame because, like I said, he was really good as Peacemaker. I enjoyed it. He was one of the best parts of that movie. Uh, yeah, I don't have any interest really. I mean, I might check it out, but It's not like
Yeah,
it's something I'm like bated breath over here. Like, oh man,
right.
can't wait to see more Cena as Peacemaker.
Well,
Eh.
it's the thing is, if you get, I don't think Cena can handle something all solo like, but you know, if you have a good enough cast around him, support cast, it could be fine. And I don't know who this is, not John Goodman, and I don't know who these other characters are. Vigilante here is with them, so is this some kind of detective agency? I don't know what they're doing with the Peacemaker here, but I'm more surprised how quickly it's happening. So and James Gunn is up here promoting it, so I don't know if he's involved with it. I didn't think he was, but he's certainly pushing it. Is he directing it? I don't
I think
really
he's
know.
probably producing it, but he
Maybe,
might be directing it. I don't think
maybe.
so though. From what I understand, he's just a producer, maybe writer type deal.
Yeah. But not much to say here. We'll just have to wait and see. I didn't realize this was going to be happening so quick. Because for this to be at the in production like this, where we're getting this kind of photo out of it, this is telling me this was in production before they even put Suicide Squad in the theaters, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of one of the benefits of the streaming model is they seem to be able to pump this stuff out quicker. Well,
Hmm.
without the pandemic slowing them down, but with if that wasn't the case, I think you might have saw quite a bit of this stuff come out fairly consistently. Like I know that was Disney's plan originally with the Marvel stuff and with all of the Star Wars shows that they had, however many it was, they had planned was to put them out on a regular basis. But they haven't been able to do that because they haven't been able to film because of you know
Right.
the
And
virus that shall not be named,
right. And they're
and
also getting pushed back on a lot of stuff too.
yeah, and the fact that some of it's just not being successful
Yeah.
kind of hurts it. So I think
Yeah.
what they did, it's obviously what they did. They went right from shooting Suicide Squad into mid production of of his show, and now they're already to shooting,
Yeah.
and it will probably be out middle of next year if they keep up this pace. So
I think it's going to be out very soon. And
yeah,
another thing it's certainly probably putting the heels on Warner Brothers is the fact that Disney Plus has not performed as they had expected. It's really
yeah,
not. The only real success story over there was Mandalorian, and everything else has been kind of meh, meh to not good, right? So, that it is a new format, and it's going to take time to go. And we've talked about the complaints about the format, the fact that they can hide behind it and they can obfuscate the various details and say it was successful when it might not have been. Which is a negative. But I don't mind having big budget superhero TV shows at all. I just want
no,
good ones, you know?
yeah. And in fairness, maybe this one will be a good one.
Maybe.
The movie was surprisingly very good. James Gunn is a lot of things, probably a pedophile, uh, but he knows how to make a good movie,
He
like a
does. He does.
fun
He
movie to
does.
watch.
Well,
He has that talent.
the I much prefer the Guardians of the Galaxy style fun than I did the Suicide Squad, but it was certainly I'd call it a 6, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
good, solid 6.
six,
So,
seven.
he is
Yeah,
good. Yeah, but it's sad for me because with the Marvel movies or TV shows over on Disney Plus, um, you know, none of them they could just sit back and tell a story like they did with the Mandalorian. All of them they had to make it political, and it's like politics in your story isn't the issue. But there's a really important distinction. Don't
yeah,
tell me, show me,
right.
right? And
Don't
this is the
literally have
error.
your main character go on a like 5 minute sermon at
Yeah,
the end.
ridiculous. Show me, right?
So bad, so bad. Oh man!
It
And the
is
worst part is
horrible.
the other problem with the Disney Plus shows is so far they've been much ado about nothing.
Yeah,
The only one that seemingly has mattered was Loki,
which
and
sucked balls, dude.
the ending to that was just so like, oh, like it just flat, just
Yeah,
Big
the
old
whole
fart.
thing was ridiculous. It is a giant fart. Loki was, I mean, you took one of the better, most successful characters you had in Loki as a bad guy.
Yeah.
You took it and immediately deconstructed it and destroyed your own character for what?
Yep.
Gender representation? Really? What?
Yeah.
But that's what they did. So,
And then WandaVision was started off too slow, I think, still. They should have made the first two episodes one longer episode
I agree.
and just pop got that whole twist part out of the way right at the end of the first episode, got you in. Then it went nowhere. By
Yeah.
the end of the thing, the only real difference is Vision. A version of Vision exists now, and she's still just as heartbroken as she was before.
Yeah. Well, as in the comics, because different version of Vision, of course. But
Yeah,
of course, we know why WandaVision wasn't good, because they cut Doctor Strange out of it. He was
which they
supposed to
shouldn't
be.
have done.
They should not
He
have
was
done.
in England. London has plenty of places where you can film some stuff. They should have had him film his stuff over there
Yeah.
and just splice it in with her. It might have
Well,
looked a little wonky, but who cares? At least it would have
that
been there.
that wasn't even the issue. Kevin Feige said very clearly you can't have a man saving the day. That's why he
Yep.
wasn't in there. And it's ridiculous because he obviously was supposed to be in there to come in and deal with Wanda. Because in the end, you have this big missing piece out of your story that makes it nonsensical, for one, and two. You're trying to using Monica Rambeau to make her a good guy when she's clearly a monster, and
Yeah.
having the sorcerer supreme come in and thump her and put her down and then take her and show her some compassion to try to rehabilitate her, that would have been great story arc for Wanda.
Yeah.
But no, she's
We
perfect
can't
in
have
every
can't
way,
have that.
right? Can't
Aren't you
have
just
that.
excited that she's going to be in his movie? That's going to be fun.
No,
That's
because
going to
she's
be
the new sorcerer supreme. You know that's exactly
that's
what's
going to
happening.
be no. They could even go further and just say that being a supreme anything is problematic.
It maybe, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's really silly, stupid mistakes made for politics,
Yes.
and there's no need for it. You could have still had your political leaning and done an interesting story. But
Yeah.
anyway, here's I did want to mention one other thing after that, but this is something that has to be mentioned here.
Batman and Catwoman's awful love life was just made Harley Quinn canon.
Yes. So we have this kind of goofy little comic here, which is, I think for 12-year-old girls, I guess, which is good. You keep trying to sell those comics to those little girls. They don't want to buy your book, but you keep trying though, because maybe you'll get it. Maybe one day they'll start buying your book. But this
Yeah.
is girl talk, and clearly what
Talk and clearly much longer.
and clearly, I don't know what that was. Clearly, there's going to be a menage a trois here, between the lesbian lovers and Catwoman, who is complaining that Batman, it isn't good sex, dude. It's just not good sex. But these girls are going to show her what good sex is. I guarantee it. I
Of course.
guarantee. Right.
Yeah.
So, got to disrespect that Batman, man. You gotta get him. Got to get him.
Of course. Because
Yeah.
he's a white man.
Yeah,
So
and I still can't believe they pulled that same shit they keep pulling over and over and over and over again. They're going to get married. Oh my God, it didn't happen again.
can someone
Again.
explain to me what this art style is? Because it looks like it was drawn by a 12-year-old.
Yeah, it's cartoony, for
Oh no,
sure.
that's worse than cartoon. That's dog shit. That is.
Eh, I don't
That is
mind it. I don't mind the style
terrible
for
in a
what it
mainstream
is.
comic book. Terrible. No, no, it's not a stylistic choice. They paid somebody way little to get this done, and
Maybe,
that's
but
what you get.
if you were going to make a comic book for elementary school kids, wouldn't it look like that?
Why would you make this comic book for elementary school
Well,
kids?
no, clearly this is inappropriate.
And no, it wouldn't. It
This is
would
the
look
same
like
book that.
Golden Age comics because those were for elementary school kids.
Sure, but I'm just saying I could buy it as having a kid label on it. However, remember, this is the same book that had Harley and Poison Ivy literally scissoring on the cover. Keep that in
Yeah,
mind. It's the same comic book, right? And that's why I say there's gonna be a menage a trois here, because that Batman can't satisfy the cat lady. But whatever. Just kind of dumb. Last thing I want to mention is because we do talk about comic books here, I'd like to maybe talk about a comic book if I could. You know, and
Yeah,
here now this is a website that shall not be named. However, um, this series called 100 Bullets. This is written by Brian Azzarello, I guess, and
that's okay.
art by Eduardo Riso. Um, I like this comic book. Now, people have talked about it a few times, and I had never read it, and I was like, yeah, I should read it. I finally got around to starting to read it. It's pretty interesting, dude. It's a good comic. Have you ever read it?
I have not. I've heard of it though. I heard it's really good.
Yeah. I'm not that deep. I'm only a few books in. However, it's really going well, and it's been highly recommended to me by many people. This is one I suggest you might go read. It is really interesting. It's an adult book, not for any manner of pornography per se, but just the themes are, adults. This is not a kid's book. But
Yeah,
I like it. I like it quite a bit. And I suggest people go read it. And I know that you're not the biggest comic book dude. You're not like me. But you might want to go read this, dude. I think you'd like it. I think it's up your alley.
I used to be like you, and then about 2003 ish. I think it was there was a few factors. One, the Spider-Man and X-Men movies came out, and they were really good. I really liked them. And two, I just kind of grew out of it. And they were also doing really weird shit at the time, and I just kind of saw the writing on the wall that this stuff was starting to go downhill, and it kind of has ever since then. So yeah, that was the main reason. But when I was younger, man, I had thousands of books. I don't even know. I had whole boxes full of them in my closet.
Yeah.
Um, because they were cheap as shit, right? You go into wherever and buy them. Or my grandma would buy. She would like order from this catalog hundreds of them at a time from everybody: Marvel, DC, Image, all of them. Just even random publications I don't remember the names of, and just all kinds of different books. So I had all kinds of books. But as I got older, just kind of grew out of it. Started playing games more. Didn't put time aside for them anymore.
Yeah.
And that's really what happened. And then the movies came out, and I was like, this gives me my fix. And we've had superhero movies pretty much ever since.
A
And
good
for
13
a
years.
long
Yeah,
time,
13 years.
we had really good ones.
Yeah.
And now they're they've fallen off. Let's put it
They
that way.
have, but I mean, it was inevitable, yeah. But I love superhero comic books, of course. But there's a lot of non-superhero comic books that are good fun too. Actually, some of the stuff I read a lot recently is the old stuff. Way back, in what they call the golden age, and there wasn't hardly any superhero stuff in that at all. I mean, there was some, but most of the stuff I read are like horror comic books and things like that. I mean, there's no superheroes involved at all. I read a lot of non-superhero stuff,
Yeah,
and I know some of you guys are pretty diehard in the superhero stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there, I would suggest checking out other things as well. 100 Bullets is interesting, and there is supernatural aspect to it, clearly. So that's interesting too. But anyway, I do need to run. I probably went a little longer than I should have, but. Oh well. Thank you everybody for coming in here and being involved. Lots of good chat going on in the chat. We always appreciate that. I never can read all of it or keep up with it, but I do try to keep an eye there. And you guys are having good conversations, which is important. But we appreciate you guys. Keep in mind we're off. On Thursday this week. Tomorrow we are going to continue with Bill's little. We're kind of on a hiatus. We're kind of on a hiatus from our normal stuff because Rabbit is on vacation, so we're just doing that kind of old school D&D stuff. But other than that, thank you very much, and we'll check you out and take us out here, Thunder.
I have a very simple one little sentence. Well, technically it's two. Evil's face changes, never its nature. Remember that. When
That's true.
people say things like history rhymes or history repeats, No, it's just the same force over and over again.
That's right, and
Have
that's
a
why
good
you
night.
should never shake Booster's hand.
That's right.
That's right.
It's for the best.
It's for the best. Later.
Bye.